So we had this morning staged the issues, the stress on the electric systems, and then some technologies, some solutions available, some pilot projects to start to show what could be done and assess the effect or the impact of those solutions, and of course also what can be the evolution of the regulation to accommodate those new capabilities and trigger the transition also. You need to come up with some kind of incentives or new incentives so that the players will accept to take risk and gets moving. So at this point, we have been setting the stage. We've been providing a lot of inputs, and we would like to offer the audience to ask a couple of questions. So I see here one person. So is there anyone else to get prepared? There will be another one here. Is there anyone else who would like to? Okay, we have our 3 questions for now. So please state your name, affiliation, and please be as direct as possible in the question statement.
Hello. Pravir Ghosh, Case Bharat. So everybody talks about China's installing 35 gigawatts of solar last year and 30 gigawatts of wind, but nobody really talks about 25 to 30% curtailment they have for each of these places. Tamil Nadu is already facing major curtailments. There are 8 states in India that's going to face curtailment with major solar and wind coming in the next couple of years. So the question is twofold. One is to the regulators, especially from Telangana, where I believe you're going to cross more than a gigawatt of solar by the end of this financial year. What are you doing with the other persons who, especially from Enphase and ABB, who has done DERMS? What are you doing to get this going to manage DERMS? And for Raghu, I've got a specific question. Since you are talking in terms of microinverters, are you linked with that completely, or can DERMS be separate from your micro inverters?
Many great questions. Thank you. So please, I can.
See, you are referring to China. Everywhere, backdowns will be there. When the system grows larger and larger. See, we, in India, we have a notion that PLF has to be 80%, 85%. No. See, average PLF in Europe for the coal-based power plants in USA or China, it is not more than 60%. So backdowns have to be there when the system grows, because the difference between peak and off-peak is going to happen. You have seen many, presenters have shown you that. Then the second thing is, that is why we are talking about the flexible power systems. I did not complete because of time constraint. When we are saying flexible, because of this reason only, flexible power system means even the coal-based power plants have to be in the flexible power system, which is the hallmark of the next generations. Even coal-based power plants have to be designed in such a way that they have to ramp up and ramp down fast, not like the present way of operating the power plants. Okay, they have to be incorporated technologies. There are many plants in Europe. I have seen in Germany, which can ramp up within 20 minutes. Okay, and the technology available to design the coal-based power plants for cold start of 9 to 10 hours only, not days or weeks. Okay, so technology is available. Now coming back to Telangana, already we have 1200 megawatt online now, and the grid connected to that. See, our design was a distributed generation type. Okay, the solar-based power plants are located at the different districts connected to the 33 kV system or 132 kV system, mainly to cater to the local needs and specifically to the agriculture load, because daytime our grid supplies 6 hours to the agriculture pump sets and only 3 hours in the off peak time after the 10 o'clock. Okay, so the 6 hours, the solar power generation of about 1200 megawatt now, it is catering to the agriculture demand, which is per day around 40 million units per day. Okay, so that's how we don't have any problem as of now. But the total amount of solar power bid out is around 3,500 megawatt. When all the power comes, then we may have to adopt the strategy of operating the other power plants, mostly coal-based power plants, in a, you can say, flexible manner, and how best we can do that we are thinking. Hope this answers it.
Great. I think for that part of the question, then Raghu.
Yeah, so I'd like to address take a crack at the first one as well. I think definitely it's a multivariable problem. I think looking at solar by itself in isolation, yeah, it's the worst case scenario that you end up curtailing. I take a more behind the meter view of things, and we experienced that in a number of situations where you have a zero export requirement mandated by the utility, for example. Happens in Australia, it happens in a couple of other places as well. And there, you try to do is, do some DSM or energy storage, which means you turn on your storage system because you don't want to curtail. And curtailment is last resort, but nevertheless, you have to. So my point is, I think you'll see less and less of solar-only systems being installed. You'll start seeing more and more of energy systems being installed, and when that happens, you have a lot more levers to pull on. Load being one of the biggest. Storage, of course. With regards to Enphase specifically and what we are doing, as I mentioned, we took a very platform approach to this. So there are a couple of things that is enabled as a result of that. The first is that platform may or may not have solar on it. That's one. So the software infrastructure, the communications and software infrastructure can manage whatever is on the platform. Grid services, ancillary services, etc., could just be one of the applications that's specific to a particular use case. And the other, if I understand your question correctly, is if there are other solar systems, there is a lot of standardization going on with Modbus and other 2030.5 certain standards that are coming in place that are that allow you to control these DERs in a more standardized manner. So the platform can leverage that as well to talk to those, and that forms at the network level forms the term.
Thank you, Sandeep Sinha. Do you want to add something, or is it okay that? That's fine.
It's already been said, but what I'll just try to.
So that's fine if it's said.
Just
no. Just I want to see if there is something to add.
So yeah, demand side management and energy storage are something which are very critical for making the things more robust and more usable. In fact, DERMS, as we are using that technology already in India, maybe it will come, but when it's difficult to say.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please.
Ratan Das, ICA Power, Dover, Delaware, USA. This question is either for Mr. Sen or Mr. Khan. The issue is raised by Mr. Khan about ancillary services. That's very important to have that 175 gigawatt of renewable energy. Is there any discussion at CERC about that?
No, CERC has already come out with a introductory regulation. Okay, they have already done it, but it is only in the initial stage. That regulation is not suitable for market initiation. Okay, as of now, with the available resources, they have identified certain power plants which can be used as ancillary, reserves. See, when I say ancillary services, they are related to the regulatory system again, primary reserves, secondary reserves, tertiary reserves. Okay, So how best, when to use the resource available as a primary resource, when to use as a secondary resource and the tertiary resource, that classification can be done. But as I was saying market, because if somebody, private investors want to come here and put up say battery storage or some another storage, unless we define it is classified as what, whether a generation for so our transmission or distribution, which asset it will be. That is why I was talking about the ancillary services. So now we are in the initial stage. Hopefully we have to go in a big way if you want to, you can say, maintain high penetration of renewable energy.
Okay, I'd like to just add on what Mr. Khan was saying. As far as the regulators are concerned, we have a platform called Forum of Regulators, which all of us participants, and more or less we are meeting quite frequently. Earlier it used to be twice or thrice in a year. Now more or less every alternate month, and then we have number of subgroups. We have a technical group, we have a quality of power group, we have a lot of subgroups. We also deliberate on different aspects of the power sector, which the new challenges which are coming up and how to go forward. We also engage number of consultants to have a more deeper view in the sector. We don't just keep it only with us. We also get the consultants to have a more deeper view and present everything, whatever they find it out, and deliberate in our platform and then try to come. But nevertheless, let us accept, as I tried to point out, that it is a big opportunity and challenge both. If you want to see it as a challenge, by separating each and every segments of the power sector, then certainly it is difficult to meet. We'll be failing every steps. But if you want to see it as an opportunity, then if we see them a single basket and then address the different role to be played by the different segments, how to be modulate them, how to modulate them. And if you have seen the presentation given by the European Union, that there is a 30 billion saving, there is a 300 billion saving. I hope that is the fact is going to happen, though they have projected in the future. But once we start talking about the RE power, we have lot of aberrations which are going to happen. That is, as Mr. Khan talked about, the ancillary support system, which is basically to address the gap between RE source and the demand. Now that will have a cost plus. This is never a cheaper or not be the same cost what the conventional power is there. It will be cost plus of the conventional power. Similarly, when you talk about the conventional power has 2-3 factors we have to understand. One is we are very comfortable to generate it as a base load station. Unfortunately, nuclear is a base load. We cannot do much about that. We have the best regulation at the gas and some better with the coal, which has to be enhanced to, fluctuate between 20 to 100, which now most of the European countries are doing. And we also have to go for two-shift operation, what I was trying to point out. So this type of activities are to be factored in. Along with that, the thermal plants, which they have to back down during the nights. So if we go for demand side management, we can shift large amount of loads to the time when there is generation, but not much of demand. So it is, as it is true for the RE power, it is similarly true for the conventional powers also. So both RE, conventional power, all those things has to be addressed in two mechanisms. One is certainly the demand side management and second is the storage mechanism. So we will have to see how best we can really work on that. Now, it is a typical Indian scenario where total installed capacity is around 3 lakh megawatt. And 2.84 and every day it is changing, so I am not going to the exact number. It is around 3 lakh megawatt. Out of which our 1.84 or 2 lakh is about coal base and balance is our here and there. Now, if you see the total power demand is not even 60% of the installed capacity. So there is a huge gap to really manage, even with the existing capacity, to meet the full demand. So all those things have to be addressed, looked into, factor in, and see the bigger basket, and then work on that. And Certainly, the regulators are working on that, government is working on that, even the individual organizations are working on that. And we are sure that with this type of platform, with this type of platform and forums, we will be in a position to get into that.
Thank you, Arun Sen. And our last question, please.
I am Shishir Gupta. I represent a company called Desi Energy Solutions. And we work in the area of energy conservation, smart grids, and rural electrification. This question goes towards Mr. Sinha, probably, I would ask. Sinha Saab, you see, in rural electrification, we've been involved for the last 15 years now. The question is about control management. Laying a microgrid is probably not as that difficult we can probably think of. But the control part, what would you do or what would your system do? Suppose if somebody does not prepay me, how would your control management react to it? Would it shut it off and cut off the consumer, or would it still keep supplying? A. Second question, suppose if somebody is stealing power. I've authorized somebody to take, let's say, 10 kilowatts of power, but he draws 50, 100 kilowatts. He is not paid for it. Would it disconnect, or would it still give him power, or my grid will get burnt out? How do you control that? How do you manage that? Can I, suppose if he gets disconnected, the third question is, how do I put him back online? Now, is it that my man at the site manages it? Because we don't want that. Technologically, can I get the control over my telephone through cloud function? That I can connect or disconnect a consumer in a village from my telephone? These three questions, please.
Okay, that's a very relevant question. So just to draw an analogy between a generation and transmission and distribution. What I was talking about, the technology is more about generation. So we do have these certain controls built into the system, but certainly it doesn't go to the last consumer level. To answer specifically your questions, there are technology available, and I can also specifically mention you later the places where it is being implemented. There are metering technologies, which are built in with connector, disconnector, available on the cloud, and available at on a phone as well. Even they give a voice message to the consumer that you are running out of your prepaid money, you should get it recharged. So all these functionalities are available. So what I have seen in my last 1.5 years, that ecosystem around village electrification is becoming quite robust for the entire implementation and collection of money as well. So yes, to answer your question specifically, yes, the technology are available to handle all the challenges what you just spoke about.
Do you
Yeah,
think
yes.
you will
Mario,
be able
please.
to put me in loop with some people? Because for the last 15 years, we've been looking for somebody with technology. I could not find anyone.
Okay, we can take it
And
offline.
we-
I'll introduce you to
We're
somebody.
supplying power to about 6,000 people in a village.
Okay.
That's huge. And we face challenges every day of our life.
Yeah, and Maria Sankis would like to say something there on the question, please.
Yes, please.
Is it on? Yeah. Just a short remark that the reform we are planning now in Sweden on more stringent performance requirement on the metering, includes that the meters installed will make it possible to remotely connect and disconnect electrical installations on both sides. So we are planning on that, and some other requirements I can, if you're interested, tell you afterwards.
Yes, maybe I can exchange my card with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And actually, here is our last question. Please, sir, if you would like to introduce yourself and
I have
a
a-
short question statement, please.
Short. I have a short question for Mr. Sen. You have given a list of plants which are 25 years old, and for those plants you have taken availability of 85%. Don't you think this is too high a figure for plants which are more than 25 years old?
We don't have any separate tariff for age of the plant. First, let us accept it. based on the aging of the plant, if there has to be a separate tariff, it can also be done. But that is on specific cases. If somebody has a difficulty that is because of the age of the plant, he is not in a position to keep the availability of the power at 85%, he can always approach the commission. And because once it is a 25 years old plant, automatically his fixed cost will be much less. But now coming to, if you are talking to my presentation, if you say in case of a 25 years old plant, we are not talking about 85% PLF, we are talking about 30% PLF. And only thing, in the evening, it will go for the full load, and that is possible. That is not impossible. It can always generate its full capacity for a particular time of the day, and for that, we also told very clearly the operation and maintenance are to be tuned up accordingly. It just cannot happen just like that, it has to be tuned out. So that it can generate up to 100% of his load, maybe 105% of his capacity also, and again come down. But I don't know exactly, we are talking about any specific case. In case of any specific case, they can always approach the commission, and the commission will have a favorable look onto that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is actually closing our session today. And please give a big round of applause to our presenters, panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schomburg, for a very engaging session. And I'd like to now request our chair, Mr. R.N. Sen, Chairman, West Bengal Electricity Regulatory Commission, to kindly do the honors of thanking all the esteemed speakers, starting with our moderator, of course, Mr. Richard Schomburg first. A big hand, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Schomburg for steering the conversation so well. Thank you very much, sir. Moving on to Mr. Raghu Belur, Mr. I.A. Khan, Mr. Manuel Sanchez Jimenez, Ms. Maria Sanquist, and Mr. Sandeep Sinha. And now I would request our moderator, Mr. Richard Schomburg, to do the honors and present our chair with a small token of our appreciation. A big round of applause for our chair, Mr. R.N. Sen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And now our photographer is going to urge you to step ahead of the dais, eminent dignitaries, so that we can get a photo opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, we now break for lunch. I would request you to please join us back in Zorawar 5 minutes before 2 o'clock, because that's when we will start with the next session, which is RE Integration, Energy Storage and Microgrids, Project Experiences and Recommendations for India. It's going to be chaired by Mr. Pankaj Batra, Member Planning, Central Electricity Authority, and will be moderated by Mr. Ravi Sitapati from Biosurus and ISGF. And this is going to be the last session, ladies and gentlemen, of the India Smart Grid Week before the valedictory session. So I would urge all of you to please be here and attend this session as well as the valedictory, which takes place at 4:30. Thank you very much once again. Enjoy a good lunch and please be back by 1:55. Thank you.